Socotra started with a crazy plan. In fact, I never wanted to go to Yemen initially. It just turned around, it just turned out to be that because of Socotra, I went to Yemen. And I went to Socotra because I got an invitation to work in Yemen. At that time, I was not working in the development field. I was working in content creation, having a short-term commission with a big organization, and it was okay. I had a daughter. My relationship at that time was a bit difficult because I was traveling all the time. And worldwide, globally, the Yemen war was slowly, or shall we say the Yemen crisis at that time, was slowly taking shape. Incidentally, at that time, I went to Yemen, and since I was already in Yemen, I happened to go to Socotra. It took a short flight to go to Socotra, and the first thing I landed and I saw were men in India we wear these skirts called lungis or sarongs, and they looked very, very Indian, mixed with Arabic blood and a bit of Africa. It was very strange. I got picked up by my guide, Anwar. I had a contact with him before, and then we started our epic drive through Socotra. And they say Socotra is the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean, and if you look at it, you will understand why. It is nothing like any place on this earth, and I swear it is true. So the first place we went, it was very funny because when I went to Socotra, I was in Yemen and it was still okay. People were very friendly. I was in, relatively good comfort. And then Socotra happened. And Anwar knew that I was from India, so he said, oh, welcome to Socotra. You'll be staying at the Taj of Socotra. You're from India, so you know Taj, right? And I had really high expectations that, oh, this is going to be amazing. And so we drove through, I remember driving through the airport, and the drive was stunning. We went by the coast. There was the blue sea, and there were these mountains full of blood dragon trees. It was so incredible. And then Hadibo happened, and Hadibo is the biggest village or the town of Socotra. So it's a town of around 50 houses, a school, a hospital, a missionary, and it was dirty. And Taj Socotra was, what can I say, anticlimax of our Taj Mahal. That's all. So yeah, Taj Socotra had a toilet which looked into somebody else's courtyard. It had a mug which was chained so that nobody stole it. You had to walk down at the end of a corridor to go to the sticky toilet, and the door didn't have a lock, so you had to kind of sit very precautiously in order to hold on to the door to kind of close it. But it was okay. From my balcony I could see the sea, and that's the Arabian Sea, by the way. And we had this online TV channel which was Ethiopian drama, something I didn't understand, but it was fun. And but it was a place to stay. It was not cheap, but I was happy when I got out of there. It was a sad part of urbanization of a UNESCO heritage site. That is Socotra. I mean, you should not be littering it, you should not be making new construction. But when I was there, the whole island was going through a lot of changes. So our entire Socotra lasted for more than 10 days. We went to Delisha Beach, which is a bit on the east, and then we drove all the way to the Dixon Plateau, which is famous for these beautiful blood dragon trees. And these trees have this upturned umbrella like leaves, and they draw moisture from the atmosphere, so they are absolutely stunning. They also have frankincense and myrrh, which were gifts given to baby Jesus. And Socotra incidentally has a lot of history of sailors going to the island and creating these souks for frankincense and myrrh. And then we camped in a place called Wadi Dirhur, and I cannot tell you how it feels to camp overnight in a place because there were stars and nobody else. Of course, we had some goats, but then there are goats everywhere on the island. And after the sun set, there was nothing to do but to look at the stars, and I have never seen so many stars in my life. They just filled up the whole sky, and at one point they just seem to be like a ceiling that is bearing down on you, and you just cannot stop staring at them silently. That is Wadi Dirhur. So the next day from Wadi Dirhur we left, and we went all the way to Noji, which is in the south. It was dry, and the funniest part is, Socotra has only one road, so you just kind of drive along that road and you just follow wherever the road takes you, and it goes around in the circles, the whole island. And when you go through Nojid, you go through a lot of these lava stone mountains, and you have a lot of caves there. It's a very dry area. You can see dry river beds and all, wild camels. And in those caves, actually, people were living, like entire families with their animals. They had curtains just for privacy. I've never seen anything like that in my life, really. I'm not from, one of the first world countries, but even then, I was shocked that in the 21st century, people are actually still living in caves. It was incredible. But then Socotra is incredible, You have these Bedouins from the mountains who just roam around the valleys like hosts. They sell, they kind of herd their animals, and they sell meat from their animals, milk, cheese, bit of goat hair ropes, blood dragon tree makeup, and they just keep moving. And the island has this really big mountains in the middle. It's called Hagar Mountains. They look so mysterious. They look like wizards, and they have a different climate altogether. So when you're on the coast and you look inwards towards the island, you see these blue, huge masses of rocks which shoot into the sky, covered with mist, while you're sweating your clothes off, on the beach. So the entire diversity is absolutely mind-blowing. In Nojid, we stayed at inside one of the caves. It's called Dugub Cave. I was the only Indian woman, obviously, and people were very excited because they didn't have maybe a normal concrete house, they didn't have cars, they didn't have a lot of things, but they definitely had Bollywood. And it was funny because all these Bedouins, they would come up to me and they would say Hind, 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 and they would ask me these names of cereals which I've never seen in my life. It was funny, and sometimes they would just give me gifts if I could talk to them in Hindi. And the same thing, the Bollywood craze happened in Dugub also, but it was a bit dirty. It was a huge cave where you could park more than 20 cars, and you could have many rooms inside to stay. But it was a bit stinky. People also used it for toilets. So we moved on from there, and we camped overnight at a place called Omak before going away from Zahak. Now Zahak is a very interesting place. They have these sand dunes which are really, really big, massive sand dunes, and they shift overnight. So if you have a sand dune here in the morning, it kind of shifts overnight because of the wind, and Socotra winds are very fierce, and it blows away and forms somewhere else. So if you left something on the beach, the next day you're not going to find it because it's covered with sand. So then we camped overnight at Omak. It was, okay experience. But again, I didn't realize that the sand moved and I was nearly getting buried. And then we went to some place called Kalansia, which is one of the most beautiful places I have seen. It's a beach which has a lagoon, and the lagoon has a bottleneck. So every time there was water, all these turtles and reef sharks and squids would come in to lay eggs. There was nobody there at that time when I stayed. There was except one tourist, an Italian guy, and there was a Nordic couple, a Norwegian couple, but they were leaving. And it was fantastic to have an entire beach for yourself. From there we went to somewhere called Hadibo Back, because we had to go to the eastern part of the island, and slowly I was starting to get weary. I was on the road for more than a week, sleeping in cars, sleeping in caves, on the beach, no shower. Food was a disappointment because most of the food you get is what comes by boats or by planes, and it was kind of getting lame. So I wanted to get over with it, As beautiful as it was, I just wanted to go. So then we went towards the east, the Bomi Plateau, which is something like out of the Bible, stone huts, absolutely empty valleys, and they have this pink, something like this, desert rose trees which are in absolute full bloom. So the entire mountains were pink, But it was getting cold. I had a swim, and it was a wrong decision because I had no dry clothes with me. I started getting sick, and Socotra ended with me getting severely sick. And it is not a place where you want to get sick. Trust me. That was not a good ending. But as I said, if I have to go back again, I would absolutely do that in a heartbeat. I would absolutely always go back to Socotra. There's no place like that on earth.